5 p.m. Pacific, Sunday, the 22nd of September, 2019. I'm Ben. Hey, how you doing? And we have Lawrence Petross himself, or as his initials say, or the French would say, Le Pedal Dude. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We got a bunch of people in the chat already. This thing's been on fire. We'll do a quick roll call, folks. If you want to get a shout out, you know what to do. Say hello. We've got Zach Thong first in the chat tonight. We've got Terry's GG&G. We've got our good friend Mozzie, Mr. Alex Radford, Music Therapy Laz, both from the Bay Area of California. Very cool. Damage 262. We've got Upside Down. We are scrolling because they were talking up a bunch. There's Brad Miller. Good to see you, man. Still scrolling. Wow, you guys were talking a bunch before the show. Or as I call it, pre-gaming it. Kirk R. Good to see you. There's JJ's House of Jams. Good to see you, JJ. All my best to Dana. You know that. Kirk R. My knees hurt. Mitch Heyman. Good to see you, man. Mitch Heyman did a show late last night. I was already in bed. Man. Guy's crazy. And he's in Pennsylvania. Marked Effects. Dan in New Jersey. Brack Stubblefield. Always good to see you. SD Design. Made it. Awesome. My knees hurt. JP Page 2. I did see your email. I'll reply to you later. Guitar Hack. The man who's been begging me to get to the post office. Tomorrow. I will be there tomorrow. ET5150. Will Varela. Will who? And I think, Kevin Bolton, Ron Limber, Vintage 6-String 1. I think we got everybody in here. Awesome. Thank you all for joining in. If you haven't already, please leave a thumbs up. If you have a question for Lawrence or myself, you can tag either one of us. We're both in the chat. David Ennis, Chuck Booth. Man, a bunch of people still jumping in. There's my sister, Heal Up Amanda. Amanda is not feeling well at all. Oh, hello, Janice. She said, miss me. I did not. Hello. Soda. She says she is not. Well, you're not sick? I was told you were sick. Am I getting false news? Am I getting fake news here already? Jeez. That's it. We're done.
Stream over.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, if we can't talk about my sister being sick, then I don't. Why are we here? No. So you've been pretty busy since the last time you're on, which I cannot remember when because I'm terrible with dates, but a string of runs of limited edition tone boxes that are awesome. You've got the production runs going, and would I be right? The Phoenix Fuzz, is that a new production line?
That's not. That one's still in limited run.
Okay.
Yeah,
see,
it's still in limited run.
That's why I ask.
Yeah, and I've got some of those. So if you guys are interested.
Yes, a very, very cool fuzz box. Few people have played them already. I've heard nothing but good things.
RJ's demo was really good.
Yeah. Although, let's be honest, that guy could demo a mop and it's going to be good. But yes, I will. Yeah, because he's one of those. He can demo like a lot of fuzzes, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. But yeah, he did. I'm like, I believe I texted you right after, so I'm like, damn it, add it to the list.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun one. It's it works good on both Fender amps and Marshall amps. It's the tone control helps a lot with that. Keeps it from getting too bright and fizzy, and you can dial it in. Yeah, it's been a very busy summer with the limited runs. So I should be winding those down here soon. I think I have the Howies are being built, and the pre-release list is they're getting theirs this week, and then I think I'll probably have another 10. I'll build 2 runs of 10 on that one. And then the only one that's left is the 2 Ravens. which that one will probably be prior to Halloween or at Halloween, something like that. And then I'll be done.
Right.
Yeah, then I'll be done. Then I got to work on the Winter NAMM release. So.
Right. Yeah, and the Two Ravens, man, that one even snuck by me. You post that, and I remember again, I was like, "What's this? What's going on?" And you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, that's a little something Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mitch Heyman has a. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say I had to put that one on the shelf, and I wasn't going to, because I was wrestling with the faceplate design, coming up with something that was fitting and cool, and at the last week it came together, and so I decided I'd go ahead and release it. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I remember we had bounced back and forth a couple of design ideas a few months ago on that, and like say because you were doing so many limited runs, I'd kind of forgotten about it, and you're like, "Yeah, it's this." I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, I remember." Yeah, a few months ago, sure. Mitch Heyman was asking. He says, "I understand Lawrence teaches guitar. What is his favorite style of music?"
To play or to listen to? To play, yeah, right, because I find that they're very different. For example, I enjoy playing jazz, but I can't stand listening to it. It's just it's a challenge to play, so that's kind of keeps me engaged. But to listen to, it's doesn't have enough energy. So I don't know. I've been a metal guy for a long time, and I really enjoy progressive metal as far as like to listen to and to play. I play a lot of blues. Actually, RJ and I are very similar in musical taste, what we enjoy listening to and playing. He plays a little more surf than I do, and I probably play a little more country than he does. But yeah, very similar. I cut my teeth on playing in bands and touring in the 80s, so I was always into metal, hair metal, hard rock, stuff like that. So that's still kind of, that's still kind of my go-to.
My sister says you're a talented player.
Why, thank you, Amanda.
Checks in the mail, sis.
I did not know you had an arrangement.
Yeah, do what we can. SD Design is asking if you make any modulation pedals.
I do not. I've pondered it, though. There's an interesting new product that has come onto my radar that there's not too much information available yet, even to developers for it, but it appears to be it's from a designer that I've used before. It's the same people who designed the reverb chip that I used in my mini reverb pedals. Have just released their, I guess it's their follow-up to that processor, and it's supposed to be more geared towards multi-effect. So I'll have to dig into that and see, and if it's everything that it promises to be, I may actually be releasing some modulation stuff. So far, I think I've gone on record as saying that I feel that belongs in the digital domain, and since I'm not a coder, either I would have to hire someone to do the design for me, kind of like Zach did with his delay, or just kind of forego doing it, because the analog parts are unobtainium and very expensive if you can find them. So
right.
So yeah.
And just a heads up, folks, Gussie Wells is still looking for a phaser. So if you have a spare phaser, contact Gussie Wells. You and I, we've talked a lot about modulation. As soon as you mention that, like, I know that reverb chip, and it's quite nice that if it does go forward, that can be very interesting. Yeah, for sure. I like that. Because I did dig that reverb chip, for sure.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see what they wrap up in that package. and how accessible it is for non-coders to be able to use it.
Right. Exactly. Brad Miller has an interesting question. He's like, when you were first starting out, how did you market your business and what contributed most to your growth? Any tips for a new company getting started? Asking for a friend.
As Brad probably, or Brad's friend probably knows, it's fairly challenging to figure out. I talked to a lot of people who had businesses, made friends with a lot of people who were basically in the same situation that I was in, but they were further down the road. Most of them were very forthcoming with good, solid information on how to grow things. A lot of it is developing a solid product and having your, like for me, I wanted to make sure that I had all of my production in line prior to having products reach the people, because I didn't want to leave people stranded with orders that they place and having to wait to get their product. So I set all of that up ahead of time, and then started talking to people like Philip McKnight. I got him the 68, and just talking to him about the best way to go, and a lot of it is timing, really. And being able to get your product on the market, something that people are going to want, that's going to fill a need at a particular time, because everything ebbs and flows. So it's kind of, it's tricky.
Yep.
It's like playing the stock market, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. But it's still a kind of a guessing game, right? And it's
definitely a combination of things. Like I'd say for you, like if you can get, it's one of those, get your product into the right hands. Well, whether it be a YouTuber or a handful of pro players, like what we saw with Zach over at Mythos, when, with his stuff, I think it was the exposure from a pro player on YouTube, that did a ton of stuff for him.
Right. And getting LPD products in the hands of pro players who have exposure, and other people who are watching for them on YouTube, and they see that they have the product. Yeah, that's huge. That's huge, as well as getting it into hands of popular YouTubers so that they can get it out to their audience. It's tricky, and I haven't really narrowed down a coherent formula to it, other than just you just got to keep pushing. That's the big thing. Just keep moving forward. As long as you're doing that, never relax. The sleep will be able to come later. Just keep pushing forward.
I agree on that. My Knees Hurt was asking, what was the name of your band back in the 80s?
Oh, there were several of them. Let's see. I was primarily based out of the San Francisco Bay Area. I think one of the first ones that made any kind of headway into the market was called Razor Heart. There was one that was my last name, that did quite well. Actually, we inked a deal, and then it managed to implode prior to release of the album. But that's how it goes.
That's rock and roll. Yep.
Yeah, right. While I was in Los Angeles, I was in a project called Bad Attitude, which we did some recording and a bunch of live gigs, but I don't know that it actually went too far. And then the last project that I put together in LA, and then that I recorded with and toured with, was Bone Dust. Here in Phoenix. So
very cool. Will Varela asks, did you or Lawrence watch Farm Aid? Thanks. I did. I do remember watching, or at least part of Farm Aid.
As in the original Farm Aid?
I would think so.
That would be like...
Because I don't think they televised any of the ones after that.
So Farm Aid was John Cougar Mellencamp. Is that correct?
Yeah. John Mellencamp, Willie Nelson, and Neil Young, I believe, were the three.
Right. Yeah, I watched that. That one was pretty big, and I've always been a John Mellencamp fan. His stuff was on the radio when I was in high school, listening to it, and that was fine, usual radio stuff. But I had a chance to see him in concert at the Concord Pavilion in Concord, California. That blew me away. The stage was just totally minimal, and it was on the Lonesome Jubilee tour, I think it was, and his musicianship and the performance, it just blew me away. So I've been a major fan ever since that. Yeah, he's great. What was the charity for the Ronnie James Dio with the stars? The stars video? What was that for? Was that?
Ooh, good question.
Was that I don't know, Ethiopia? It was for something like that. It was that was hearing aid.
Yes.
Right. I don't remember what charity that was exactly for, but I remember that one too. So at the time I was a huge Dio fan. So.
Nice. I see he always comes in with a splash. My good friend here, Eddie Van Haskell. Hello, Ben. Hello, Amperella. We now have a name for Amperella. The lovely solenoid robot, red sex kitten there in the back.
Nice.
See, I can't ever get rid of that amp now, right?
I know, right? She's your mascot.
Yeah. Okay, Will saying Farmade is on YouTube now. And I believe Dale Palmer mentioned it too. They have a YouTube channel. I guess they show them this year. I did not watch this one. I only saw the original, unfortunately. Yeah, let's see here. I'm going back and forth between chats.
So is Will saying they have a new one up? There's a new Farm Aid up?
Yeah, I believe they do it every year.
I see. Well, I know with the trade thing that's going on there, the U.S. the soybean farmers are hurting pretty bad. So hopefully they'll get something.
Guitar Hack was asking if you went to school for electronics.
I did
or
not.
Are you self-taught?
I'm self-taught, unless you consider Google University to be an actual school. Yeah, I had.
You mean that's not fully accredited?
Not well. They haven't given me a degree, so I would say no. Yeah, I had some of my students. My guitar students were electronics engineers at Motorola and Intel, and they kind of tutored me a bit to get me started, make sure I didn't electrocute myself back when I was modifying and just prior to designing my my tube amp line back in the early 2000s. And they pointed me in some good directions. And it was about that time that the internet really became a thing. And I was able to get a ton of information from that. And most everything else is like, I went through and I memorized all of the formulas, Ohm's law, all the electronics things that most electronic engineers learn in school. And then started applying that and experimenting with it, and kind of took it from there. So yeah, I'm pretty obsessive. Yeah, most people who know me know that can be a little detail oriented, for lack of a better term. So
I hear you on that. And
right.
I want to say welcome to a bunch of people that joined in here. Everyone's saying hi to us, and there's a lie. It would be a secondary roll call, folks. So I'll just say a blanket hello. We got like 63 people watching, and we got a super chat from SD Design. Thank you very much. Have a drink on me, buddy. P.S. I like your white telly, dude. Hope to see you at Winter NAMM in Cali. Hope to see you too, man. If you see either of us. Speaking of which, Philip said he was going for Thursday and Friday. So.
And Mr. Van Haskell is chastising me for calling Vampirella your mascot. So I do apologize.
Fair enough. Yeah.
She's an individual in her own right.
That's right. Hey, Paul. Chris Sorrentos, he says, did I see a rig rundown with a pedal board that had a couple of LPD pedals on it?
Wow.
That would be. That's a good question. I was going to say, I showed off my pedal board, a couple of weeks ago, and I have always had a couple on.
Is he meaning like a Premier guitar rig rundown?
That's what I'm wondering. Was it on Premier Guitar? Because I know Rhett Scholl has your Saguaro on his board. At least he did the last time he did a pedal board rundown there.
It's still there. I saw it in his latest video. Yeah, he loves that little pedal.
Yeah. SD Design likes your reverb pedal. Nice.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sure wish they still made that module in the small size. I would have continued to
that was the question. And, geez, I missed Tom's question. He asks it again and does it in a super chat form. Thanks, Tom. Convince me not to buy a 69 Strat on reverb. Lawrence seems like he goes down the rabbit hole deep, and that is why his stuff sounds epic.
Well, thanks, Tom. I do, actually. I don't sleep much, so it gives me lots of time to dig around in rabbit holes.
Mm-hmm. For
Flush
sure.
out all those
and
little
I don't know if I could convince you not to buy. That's a one owner, I believe, 69 Strat. Dude.
Well, yeah, I know. And from what I've heard when in the other chats here recently about the 69 Strats, I wouldn't dissuade him at all. I would say, and if it's appropriately priced and you've got the money to buy it, I'd say go for it.
PJ and the Beard, great channel. Everyone should check out PJ and the Beard. They've been doing a live stream on Monday nights at 9:30 Eastern after I'm done. So I think this was a follow-up to what you're talking about, marketing and such. He's like, doing a good job. I keep seeing LPD's name pop up all over the internet.
Well, thank you, sir. Yeah, it's again, it's just kind of like the constant pressure thing. As far as I've been able to figure out, you just kind of have to continue finding ways, and it's not that I'm out there necessarily trying to invade everybody's space and get my name out there, but just be part of the community. That's the thing, right? Help people.
Oh, dude, it's under 4K for that guitar. Pick it up. Damn. That's just nuts. All right.
Oh, anybody who's drinking, it's time to drink.
That's right. My knees hurt says he's never been impressed when he's played older guitars. I don't think you're playing the right older guitars.
Well, vintage is a funny thing.
And it might not be something you're into.
Yeah. Some older guitars are just not that good. I mean, things get better as they get newer in general. Just, improved technology and working out the wrinkles of the old stuff. And some designs are flawless and were great the first time around. The Telecaster and the Stratocaster both, right? They're pretty solid designs. So, you just kind of have to figure out what you like and go with that. Well, eat one for me, Mr. Harai, since I am in a state where I can't do edibles.
Yeah. Touche. And for me, no comment. Janice has it. She says, I'd like to know how to get different tones into pedals, but I guess it's a trade secret. And I would think she's meaning on the build side, and that would be by using different components, right? Like a different rate of...
Hit me with that one again, I'm sorry.
She was asking about getting different tones into pedals. And I would think that's like on the building side, like how to... It's being a different circuit design, or it could be a similar circuit design with different rated components, I would say.
It depends on what sound you're going for, but generally most circuits are empirical. So it's a matter of the collection of components and the collection of the value of the components. Different things in different parts of the circuit can have different results on feel and sound. So that's kind of a tough question to answer. But component values is a huge thing. But it just depends on what you're going for. So if she can narrow it down a little bit, maybe.
Right. Market Effects asks if you modify pedals.
I used to. Don't have too much time to do it now, but I used to. I used to do lots of mods to the Boss SD1, which is a great mod platform. You can make that thing a tube screamer. You can make it CJOD or a Landgraf overdrive. There's a lot you can do to that pedal.
I agree. And you got a cool little wah mod, just saying.
Yep. Well, and that's, I don't make a wah pedal, but that's as close as it gets.
Let's see here. Tom Harhai says, when people ask for components, aka parts lists, I have to laugh. That's like a chef telling you they use beef stock, vegetable, and water. The chef makes the difference. Oh, well,
yeah.
There's got to be some of that.
Sure, right? Because I can tell you all the parts that's in each pedal, but it's, where it goes and
right
what you end up doing. Yeah, it's like,
okay.
The list of ingredients in a good cake is pretty small, and yet, everyone makes cakes differently. And a good chef versus, someone who's a weekend warrior it's a huge difference.
Right. Jana says, like, how to get a fuzz on one and a chorus on another. Okay, so yeah, that would be just a completely different circuit. I can't really think of any other way to put it. Like, it would be just apples and oranges in that respect. Like, there are some shared, I'm sure there's got to be a couple shared components between, say, a fuzz box and a chorus, but very few.
Well, all the resistors and the capacitors are going to be the same, right? As far as the component type, the values would be different, but as far as the component type, that's right. Everything has resistors and capacitors in it to some degree. Pots, those are all shared. The input-output jacks, the DC jack, the switching, that's all shared. In a fuzz, you may have transistors that do the work on the fuzz, whereas in a chorus, you'll have a BBD chip and a clock chip. So that, there's the difference between those two, but there's a lot of similarities.
Right. Hello, Peanut. Welcome. He has a question of, if I have a 500 watt bass cab and a 225 watt bass amp, can I crank the volume without worrying about damaging the speakers? I assume that the ohm rating is correct from one to the other.
Right. Even, right. Like if the output of the amp is 8 ohm and you're plugging into an 8 ohm cabinet, you've got plenty of headroom there on your speakers. Usually you only have to worry about like 20% over whatever the amp is rated at. So that should be fine. Even at a mismatch, a 2-to-1 mismatch, you're still probably going to be fine, because it's the funny thing about amps, and I'm assuming that this amp is solid state. On a solid state amp, when you have a mismatch, it actually changes your output level, right? So if it's, say you have I don't remember what you said this one was, but for easy numbers, let's say you had a 100 watt amp at 8 ohms. Generally, if you go down to 4 ohms, it now becomes a 200 watt amp. And if you go to 16 ohms, it becomes a 50 watt amp. That kind of thing, right? That's it doesn't become that amp, but the output changes, right? Tubes are more forgiving. They don't generally do that. When you have a mismatch on the tubes, you almost always have less output.
Right. Okay. Yeah, he says the ohms are the same, solid state. So yeah, you should be fine, Peanut. We got Crowbar breaking down components big time here. Technically, the clock chip is a series of transistors and diodes. Thanks, dude.
Nice.
Let's see here. Yeah, keep those questions coming. And Will Varela more or less confirmed what you were saying using the cooking analogy, because he's retired executive pastry chef, and like you said, even if I gave someone the recipe, it's still not going to taste the same. So there is that mojo. I think it's all that tone solder you use myself, but
well, you know, you don't want to know how many unicorns I have to chase down to get that solder.
Oh, yeah, terrible. That's why you don't see any unicorns in Arizona, folks.
That's true. They're hunted to extinction.
Hey, Sean. Good to see you, man. All right.
No, Krell Bar, you're not stomping on my toes, man. Keep the technical information coming. Love it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's going well. We got 74 people watching, folks. This is awesome.
All right.
Oh, I know. I had a question for you. Jeez.
All right.
Do you have a preferred brand of replacement tubes?
I do. Depends on the amp, but almost always I will recommend JJ's. They, in my experience, excuse me, in my experience, they're more robust than a lot of the other tubes that are out there, new production tubes that are out there.
Okay.
Tonally, though, they do tend to be a little bit darker, so you kind of have to take that into the equation.
Okay.
Yeah. Just depends on...
I'm 99% sure the power tubes went in the B52 this week.
Yeah.
And the reason I came up with that is you have no hiss, like ambient noise. And if you completely crank it, you can almost hear like line level, perfectly clear guitar signal. Sounds great, but you got to crank the amp to hear it. And it's not like you have a massive wash of background noise or anything. It's still crystal clear. It's just literally it sounds line level.
So I know you've probably already done this, Ben, but have you switched out cables to make sure that the cable's still good?
Yep.
Okay. That's always my first go-to because that's the weakest link in any chain when it comes to guitars, the cabling. Yeah. I would recommend JJ's for that one for sure.
Okay. Well, cool. Hey, George. Good to see you. Oh, there it is. Tesi Design. Thank you again for the super chat. We got two questions. One, what LPD pedal does cream or Rolling Stones tones? And two, is there an LPD clone of the Klon? I like smooth overdrive.
Once upon a time in a galaxy far, far away, I did a clone mod, a clone. There we go. A clone. I can talk.
Clone?
Yeah, I can talk. Hang on. Give me a moment. My age is catching up with me. But since there were so many of them on the market, I discontinued that and went more original circuits than clones. As far as the Rolling Stones go, or cream, the Phoenix Fuzz does a pretty cool woman tone. If you turn the tone control down on it, it does pretty good. See what I got here. That might satisfy the Rolling Stones thing.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's not available yet. You'll have to hold off for that one. I don't know, Ben, would you say the Modern Classic does the smooth overdrive thing?
It does. Yeah, especially, if you turn down the clean side of it or even leave it blended in a bit. Man, that thing, it covers a lot of territory. That's what I was surprised. Because I keep comparing it to that Voodoo Labs Sparkle Drive because that's my personal comparison. But the Sparkle Drive doesn't have half the gain of the Modern Classic, but it still cleans up beautiful. You can definitely get into some Klon sounds with that. Hell, you can get some nice Stones tones out of that, I'd say as well. Yeah, because it covers a lot of ground. That's true. See you, Jeff G.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. Joe Hervey's asking for a Slayer pedal. I don't think he's going to stop either.
Slayer pedal. I think maybe the 87 with a boost in front of it would do Slayer.
Oh, for sure. I think so. I would agree on that. Yeah, because it gets it definitely. You get your JCM, and then with the gain, I found before 3 o'clock position, like you can get a lot of master puppets there. So yeah. I would think if you get there, it wouldn't be hard to get Slayer. Laz asks, are you working with kids like School of Rock, etc.? My student did Black Sabbath Saturday and it rocked. They are the future. See you at NAMM.
I am. My demographic has changed a lot from a teaching standpoint. The bulk of my students 10 years ago were in the 13 to 18 range. And then, people say 35 to 60 were probably 20%. And that is completely flip-flopped recently, even as like 5 years ago. I have more girls who are playing guitar, more teenage girls who are playing guitar. But primarily my 13 to 18 demographic is 20%, and now my 35 to 60 demographic is 80%. So the young people just aren't that interested in playing guitar, which is unfortunate because, now granted, I think that trend is starting to change a little bit, but I'm not seeing a tremendous change on my end yet. I'm hoping it starts to change.
Right.
Because I would, I'd definitely love to have more teenagers in learning how to play guitar for sure.
I agree. And somebody had asked if you made a good 80s distortion. And again, the 87, folks, it's got 80 right in the name. Like, come on. It's right there.
That is why it's named what it's named.
Exactly. Absolute Mayhem was asking, what music are you currently listening to? And are you inspired by a sound you hear, or are you trying to get your own sound out?
Current listening, I'm going through a Nuno phase currently. When I was at music school, I played a ton of Nuno stuff. And most of the projects at music school that I worked with, we did covers of extreme stuff. And so I'm kind of touching base back with that just because he's an amazing player. He's in my opinion, he's like a perfect bridge between Van Halen and Malmsteen. He's got tons of technique and tons of feel all at the same time. Plus, his bass that he likes to write from is very funk oriented. So it's got lots of rhythmic challenges to it. So currently, that's a lot of what I'm listening to, and a lot of what I'm playing because I've gone back to tunes that I remember playing when I was in music college, and found out that my chops, well, as of a month ago, my chops were definitely not up to it, but I can report satisfactory results here lately. I'm back to being able to do most of the stuff that Nuno does, so that's good. That makes me happy. It's not a lost thing. You can always get it back. As far as creativity and the stuff that I create, I almost always go for whatever I hear in my head. Like when I'm recording things or writing stuff, I try to, obviously it's always going to be a collection of influences because that's just in general how human beings create, right? Nothing really comes from the vacuum of space. You've got influences that come together, and then you digest that information and spit it out as you. It's your take on these things, and so that's primarily where I come from when I am writing original material, and coming up with things. Occasionally, I'll hear something really cool and write something in the vein of that, but most of the time, it's just whatever I'm inspired to do.
Right. Mitch Heyman was wondering, question for both of us. With the success of the Kemper and Helix, do you think this hurts the pedal market?
You want to go first?
I'd say yes. I'd say yes and no, because obviously if people are buying this unit, in theory, they're not buying, say, 8 pedals or 10 pedals or what have you. But on the other hand, I've also heard people are doing both, like, using the effects loop on a Helix to, say, add in some stuff. Also, specifically with the Kemper, it's just modeling what you put into it. It doesn't have anything preloaded, so you are going to need those sounds yourself to be able to upload them. But if we look at Nax Effects, for instance, that has effects, what I'm hearing is a lot of people are using them, but then they're also buying pedals as well on the side. So,
yeah, well, most of the I don't know about the new Kemper as far as what it has for pedal emulations inside, but I'm very familiar with the Axe Effects because I have an Axe Effects 3, so I know what's in that. And for your standards, they're all in there, and their emulations are pretty good enough. We'll put it that way. Unless you're a hardcore pedal guy, you're going to be pretty satisfied with what's in the Axe Effects. Granted, the more original or esoteric pedals are not in there, so you'll still have to get those. Like, you're not going to find any LPD stuff in there, just because my stuff tends to be non-clone. It's more of the original circuitry. So those aren't going to be in there. So you still have to buy, pedals if you wanted to get that kind of thing. But any of the traditional stuff is in there, and it's good enough. I don't know about the Helix because I haven't actually played the Helix, but I'm assuming it's similar.
Yeah, it does a pretty damn good job. I'm not going to lie on that.
Yeah,
it does a pretty good job.
Granted, the only thing that I ever had against any of the amp emulators or the pedal emulators out there is the way that they feel versus the actual analog thing. There is a difference. I don't know that they've closed the gap, but I don't know that it's enough for most people who are very into pedals to say, that substitute's going to take care of it. So I think that they may make a little bit of a dent in the pedal market for maybe the uninitiated or people who aren't hardcore pedal people. But
they seem to cater to like both ends of the spectrum, which would be like, say, not. I hate using the term beginner, but say your home player, and then you have the guys that are doing fly-in dates that want it because it's light, simple, But then there's a bunch of us, like, say, in between.
Right.
And hello to Robert Baker.
Yeah, I saw Mr. Baker in the chat.
Apparently he loves his LPD pedals, which is awesome. Thanks for tuning in, buddy.
Yes.
And Upside Down, thank you very much for the super chat. Says, thanks for having LPD on tonight. He's such an inspiration and deserves more exposure.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate the vote of confidence.
Ooh, Tom Harhigh, thanks again, man. He says, I put my Kemper head-to-head for 1 month against pedals in 1971 Super Lead. Not even close. The feel is so different. Interesting. Yeah,
and that's the big thing in my experience as well, is just that it's the sound. Like, I remember trying the Line 6 when the Line 6 stuff first came out 20 years ago. And I was amazed at how similar the sound was to everything they were trying to duplicate, but how awful it felt when I was playing it, right? Now, for someone who's never played a tube amp getting the tones that these things are supposed to be getting, you're not going to know. You have no reference for that. But for someone like myself who toured with the same gear for 15, 20 years, it's a huge difference. It's night and day. And so they keep getting closer. Like the stuff that I'm playing through the Axe Effects 3 now is not close enough for me to sell my tube amps, but it's close enough to work as a tool in certain situations, for sure.
Right. And someone was asking, sorry, I forget the name again. Is there a plan in the future for Lawrence Petross Design amps?
I have been thinking about that a lot lately, because I would really love, since tubes are they are my happy place. As a designer, as a player, tubes are my happy place. And any of the LPD stuff now is me attempting to get as close as possible to tube sound and feel with non-tube circuitry. I would be, incredibly happy if I could find a way to do tube pedals. And so I am exploring some of those avenues to see if that's a possibility, if there's some way that I can put something together to market in that avenue. As far as amps goes, they are, because of the labor and the price differential, I would love to be able to do them, but that would be far in the future. Right now, anyway. The possibility is there because, like I said, I love tubes, and that's really my happy place when it comes to being a designer and being a player. I love the tube stuff.
Right.
So I won't rule it out, but it would probably be down the road a bit.
Exactly. And we've got our preferred American retailer, Ike from Flipside, in the chat.
Hey,
yo.
Ike. Welcome in.
Yeah, awesome.
And thanks for the feedback on the LPD pedals.
Tony and Gary, good to see you guys. Man.
I don't know if you heard, Ben.
People watching.
Yeah. So Dylan left from Flipside left a comment on on one of my posts on Instagram that he stayed a full hour after closing. I think it was Friday, playing the 74, running it through its paces, and was very satisfied.
Yeah, I knew he would be.
All right, drink time, people.
Same as you, Lawrence, but as a studio owner, keyboardist, mostly a multiple instrumentalist, dealing with the menus and simply songwriting was fun with the Line 6 Pro, for example. Well, you can do that. Tom Harhai asks when the 5E III or 5E3 is due to come out.
Ben, I missed most of that because you were breaking up. Can you hit me with that again, please?
What would be the release date of the 5E3?
That one is probably going to be in between the excuse me, the Howie and the two Ravens. So, gosh, I would think in a couple of weeks. I got the boards, and I've got all the testing done. It's just a matter of getting them built. So probably a couple weeks.
Okay. Awesome. So just keep refreshing that reverb page, folks. That's what I say. Nice. Tom says, sign me up. Awesome. Yes, and if you do ever have a question on any of his gear, the man is not hard to reach. He does answer. He will help you out. Let's see here. Man, the chat is flying tonight. Love this, guys. Dan in New Jersey says, my understanding is putting a tube in a pedal is pointless because you can't drive them towards being efficient in a pedal configuration. I'm not sure about that. I know they don't sell. A lot of companies have tried doing them, and they don't seem to sell for whatever reason. Of course, that's coming from Dave Friedman.
Yeah, well, I think the main issue with tubes and pedals is that there's a voltage issue. Tubes are happiest running at 200 plus volts, really happy at 300. So getting 200 to 300 volts into a pedal is not technically hard to do, but it's hard to do safely because pedals get beer spilled on them. They get water spilled on them. People step on them. They get kicked around. 300 volts, kicking 300 volts around is not a safe thing to do. So figuring out how to do that safely, that's the challenge. It's not getting it in there. As far as the comment about drive, as long as you run those pedals at the correct voltage, they will sound like the tubes that are in your amplifiers. You don't have to do any special drive consideration or anything like that. It's just having the voltage up there. Now, when you run them at 9 volts or 12 volts, like a couple of the boosters do, or even 30 volts like the tube driver does, you're still not running them where they're the happiest. And so the tone that you get out of them is not anything like you would get out of an amplifier.
Right. All right, I'm scrolling back. Gary Tholander asked a question earlier that I missed. So I'm scrolling back, Gary, although I might need you to ask again. Flipside talked about doing an LPD clinic, possibly. And then
that would be fun.
He already seconded it.
Nice. Yeah, that would be fun. You guys would get to see my mug in person.
Exactly. All right, I missed the question. Can you ask it again, Gary? That's all I ask. Apparently the chat's not going back that far. Hey, Blackie, good to see you.
Upside Down is mentioning something about the nanotubes, the Korg nanotubes. I don't have a lot of experience with them. I know they do run a lower voltage, and they are a technology that is adapted from something that is non-musical into musical. I haven't actually purchased any of them to experiment to see if they are, if they'll sound like what the tubes we're used to hearing sound like, or if you'll have to do a lot of different jumping through hoops to get them there and end up with something that's, you know, not any better than any of the analog stuff that we can deliver at 9 volts. So, yeah, not sure about that one.
Let's see here. I did have one. Where the hell did that one go now? Somebody asked, it was Sean, asked if you're looking at getting into pickups at all. Why, no. He's got an order of Canuckbuckers on order. Shameless.
Yeah,
shameless.
It is very shameless.
Speaking of which, folks, pay attention to the channel. Huge giveaway going to be coming up soon involving Reno Fin. That's all I'm going to say. Huge giveaway.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. Currently, I no plans to do pickups of my own. Not yet. I have enough on my plate at this point.
I hear you. Mayhem's asking, where do you get your circuit boards? Do you buy a generic board and mod it, or make the board yourself?
My circuit boards are produced in fabs here in the U.S. I do all the designing myself, the layout and the design myself, and then I send it off to fabs here in the U.S. to do the production of them, and then they ship me the finished product. Yeah, if I'm doing something like a prototype, I might do some perf board or something like that, or point to point. But usually I just design the circuit board and then have them made from fabs here.
Okay. Hack says he had a couple guitar players at his gig last night asking about the Lost Dutchman. They dug it.
Very nice. Good to hear. Love that pedal.
Yeah. It's a great pedal. Here we are. Gary says, when I run my time-based effects through the front of my high-gain amp, it sounds like crap. Any suggestions, or do I have to go back to using the loop?
For modulation stuff, anything time-based, like you were saying, it's all going to sound best, or what we're most accustomed to hearing. Let me put that in there. If it's in the loop, just because then you are putting time-based stuff on your overdrive and your tones, right? Rather than putting overdrive on your time-based stuff. So it's, you know, that's the only thing that you know comes outside of that is, like, you know, if you want Van Halen's phaser sound, you have to put the phaser in front of the amp because that's what he did. So, you know, just because they didn't, most of his amps at that time for early stuff didn't have effects loops. Maybe if they put it on in the studio in post or something like that, then it would sound that way. But yeah, you're kind of forced to go back to the loop for that, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like Crowbar says, you're affecting the distorted tone instead of distorting your affected tone.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez, you're on it tonight, Crowbar. Are you not drinking? Jeez.
Van Halen who? Exactly, Will.
Yeah, I know. That guy has messed up more pedal boards, in my opinion. Run all your time-based effects into your dirt. No!
Yeah. So Guitar Hack is saying something about the trans tube in the mini Vox amps, and the the way that the Vox stuff uses the tube is kind of interesting. They use it as kind of a power amp simulation in their stuff. In the what was the I can't remember the name of the pedal board that they did, but it was similar stuff. They run the tube at low voltage. It does sound pretty good the way that they have it configured, but it's emulating power tube overdrive rather than preamp overdrive.
Okay, Gary's like, I thought so, just trying to eliminate cables. Hey, not a problem, dude. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, unfortunately, the 4-cable method on that is your kind of go-to.
Yep. Let's see. BC Rich, will you ever see guitar amps incorporating aluminum speakers like the Harkey bass? It's possible.
Yeah, it's possible. The aluminum cone on the Harkey stuff, wasn't that to increase high frequency content?
I thought so.
Without having to add an actual tweeter. It was either that or actually to stiffen the cone so you got less distortion from the speaker, which is kind of anti-guitar, right? As guitar players, we tend to love anything that distorts or smears the signal a little bit. The paper cones on your favorite speaker, running four 25-watt speakers with a 100-watt amp as opposed to 4 50-watt, just so they're right on the edge of breakup, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't see it happening. It's a possibility, but I think it would be rejected by the market.
Right. Dan in New Jersey says, since you're making fuzz pedals, which I love, awesome, where do you recommend placing it? Before distortion, after, or in the effects loop, or none of the above? I know it's individual.
It is, and it depends on the amp you're running into and the effect that you're going for. If you're running a clean amp and you want more of a Hendrix style tone out of it, I would run the fuzz before your overdrive, because then the overdrive is kind of emulating the Marshall amp, and the fuzz is running into the overdrive just like a fuzz would run into, like he'd run his fuzz into his Marshalls. I can't imagine a fuzz in the effects loop sounding really all that good unless it was in front of an overdrive that was in the effects loop.
Brian Landris says, Ben says in a drawer.
Ben says in a drawer. Yeah, put your fuzz in a drawer. It's the best. Well, we're trying to get Ben on the fuzz train.
Yes.
He'll get there.
And I am getting there.
Yeah, you'll get there.
I am.
I think if the Phoenix doesn't bring you there, the 2 Ravens will. I'm pretty sure.
I think so too, especially since I discovered that happy accident when I left one of my Dumble drives on and then hit the fuzz, and I went, what is this gloriousness?
Yeah.
Because, like, say, Hendrix ran his fuzz into a dirty amp.
Yeah, right? Or a on the edge of breakup kind of amp. The thing about fuzz into a Marshall is it's all about the filtering that the Marshall gives you.
Right.
It's shaving off lows and it's shaving off highs, so you're getting a lot of mid-focus. And with a fuzz, it takes out a lot of the flubbiness and a lot of the fizziness of the fuzz, and it just makes it cut through better. Putting a fuzz into a clean Fender amp Most fuzzes won't sound very good that way. They're just, it's really flubby and fizzy, and it's not that good.
Yeah, exactly. Brad Miller asks, can you name your favorite pedal of your own and a favorite from another manufacturer?
I can, but favorite of my own is kind of tough because my number series, the 68, the 74, and the 87, those all rank pretty much on the same level, just depending on the tool that I need.
Right.
If I had to choose one out of the three for versatility, I would probably go with the 87, just because it covers so much ground. If I wanted, but for a classic plexi, there's nothing that compares to the 68. So those,
it's ridiculous.
right. And the 74 can go from 70s sounding to 90s sounding. So those are all at the kind of the same level for me as far as my favorites. I don't know. That's like trying to ask a dad to pick his favorite kid. It's that's a rough one.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as somebody else's pedal goes, wow, I know so many other pedal builders. That one's rough.
That's like naming your favorite cousin.
Right. That one's tough. I may have to abstain from answering on that one.
There you go. We'll just say the Milner from Zach.
His Golden Fleece is so fun to play too. We were talking about fuzz pedals. That's a great. Zach's stuff is wonderful.
Yeah.
He's got a great ear. And he's a wonderful human being.
Yep.
Yeah. I love Zach.
Exactly.
Zach.
Soda was asking, did Tony Iommi use a fuzz pedal? No, he used a treble boost.
Yeah,
we covered that last week.
Yeah, right. Most of his fuzz came from his amps because his amps he was just pushing his amps so hard. So that's not to say you can't get his tone from a fuzz pedal, because his tone was very fuzzy or fuzz-esque, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But
yeah.
Upside
Down was asking, would you ever consider using a clear enclosure on a run? Some of your circuits could be considered pedal porn.
I appreciate that, and I design them as such. Anyone who has an LPD pedal, just know that I anticipate when I'm designing that you will take the back off and look at it, and I try to make them as aesthetically pleasing as possible. I do take that in mind when I do the layouts for them. As far as a clear enclosure, there's a couple of issues that I have with, because you would have to have plexiglass or some kind of acrylic with the enclosure. It doesn't offer any shielding from noise. That's my first beef with that. It looks pretty. It's gorgeous, especially if you put a couple of LEDs inside, so it lights everything up, blue or green or whatever. It is gorgeous, and maybe as a shelf piece or something that you would put on that you wouldn't actually use, sure, that would be okay. But for something that needs use, you have to have a conductive enclosure so that you get the shielding out of it, so that the circuit stays quiet.
Yeah, and I'm just afraid I'd stomp on that button too hard and it'd just push it right through.
Yeah. And I spend a lot of time designing out noise in my circuits. So that would be a dangerous place for me to go to try to do one of those. My OCD would kick in, and you guys wouldn't hear from me for like 6 months because I'm trying to design a way to do this pedal and not have noise.
Right. Or you do the clear enclosure, but it's got copper tape all around the inside, and you're like,
and you can't see anyone.
You're like, that is a clear casing.
Right.
Let's see. If you could only have one pedal, what would it be? Oh, it'd be a Klon, so I could sell it and buy a bunch of pedals.
That's a pretty good answer. A pedal to use, or a pedal for collection, or
yeah, that's
what?
a good question too.
Yeah. That one's too open-ended. I can't answer it. What amp do I have? What guitar do I have? I can't. You know, am I on a desert island with no electricity? In which case the pedal doesn't matter. So
it better have a battery compartment. Will's asking, what do you prefer, humbuckers, single coils, or what's your favorite guitar?
Hey, Will. I prefer humbuckers. I do use single coils occasionally, and I love P90s. They're just crazy noisy. But most of my guitars have humbuckers in them, with the exception of my Telecasters, which are still traditional single coils. Favorite guitar? Depends on the day. Depends on the day and what I'm playing, you know? If I'm...
Again, the right tool for the job.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Whatever the mood kind of dictates.
Yep. I was doing that earlier today. I was playing something. I'm like, this just doesn't sound right. And now one of it is I'm using a different amp, and I've tried to EQ the Fender to sound more like the B52, which forget about, you can't do. But I realized, nope, got to grab a different guitar. And as soon as I grabbed a different guitar, I was like, yep, it was good.
Yeah, it makes a difference. And from a playability standpoint too, right? I'm not going to pick up my Telecaster and play Nuno. Right. And you know, I'm not going to pick up my my RGA and play Brad Paisley. It's, you know, you can, sure, because a guitar is a guitar. It's got 6 strings, it's made of wood, tuned the same, but it's not going to feel the same. It's not going to be the best that you can, you know, get across with it.
Right. And hello, Lawn Dog. Welcome. And again, anybody that's new, please subscribe, leave a thumbs up. Do appreciate it. Hello, Steve. Let's see. SD Design says, Ben Coombs TV is better than NBC. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Soda was asking, do you own any Nuno's Washburns?
I don't. And I just answered him in the chat too. I don't. I would love to have an N4, just because I am, you know, such a fan.
Sure.
But yeah, I haven't picked one up yet. Maybe in the near future, though. I'm always looking at gear like the rest of us, so might be something I pick up soon. Be nice.
Crowbar says, "What's NBC? The Nuno Betancourt channel?" Yes. See, now that's the Crowbar I expect.
Is there such a thing? Because I want to know where it's at. I would watch that nonstop.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Does Nuno do any kind of social media stuff?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, there's plenty of videos of their live show and him doing live stuff on YouTube, but I'm not aware that he's terribly involved with social media.
Right. Hey, Jasco, good to see you. Been a little while. Oh dear Lord! Don't eat it all at once, Tom. You just made 1,000 milligrams of edibles. Jesus.
I know. That's like a full gram.
Yeah.
See, yeah, I can math. I can math.
I can math. Exactly.
I can't math when I'm eating edibles, but I can math now.
Limited math. Yeah. I can go to 10.
Powers of 10.
Yeah.
Hey, isn't that a Sean Lane album? It is. For anybody who doesn't know who Sean Lane is, please go check him out. Easily the fastest guitar player I've ever seen live in my life. When I was at Musicians Institute, he did a clinic there, concert and clinic, and just was face melting.
All right. Lawn Dog says, "Oh man," because he's getting a lot of welcomes here. You're all too loving to a crazy hot sauce guy like me. I do have some pedals, but I'm just not able to play the guitar yet. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen someday. Dude, there's people from all kinds of levels, walks of life in here. Welcome to the community. If you ever have a question, don't hesitate, reach out. It's a great group of folks here.
Yes, welcome in.
BC Rich says, sad that Metallica owns the most valuable Les Paul and bass in the world. Well, they don't have the most valuable Les Paul. He has one of them, but I wouldn't say the most. Oh, dang. Jasko got Lyme and it took him out for a bit. Yeah, that'll do it, man. Watch out for ticks, folks. Ticks are terrible.
Yeah, and you got to be careful with lime. That stuff is nasty.
Let's see. Will says, since Sammy Hagar Festival was canceled, Sammy is getting together with his band, The Circle. They're going to schedule some free concerts with Sammy and Nuno. Awesome.
And Tom Harhai says he has Lyme too. Shit, man. Take care.
Yeah, definitely. Mayhem's asking your favorite Nuno solo.
Oh, that's tough. But I don't think there's much denying that the solo to Get the Funk Out is on many levels. It's a fantastic solo.
Yeah.
From the tapped arpeggios to his, the groove on that solo, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that. I would agree on that one. Mike Prevost says, been playing 40 years, still bad at it, but love it more every day. That's the attitude. And yes, Crowbar, we do have Lyme in Canada because it's actually based out of the Northeast U.S., which is basically right across the border from us. SD Design, I'd like to go to a bar with Ben. He looks like a fun dude. Well, if you run into me at Winter NAMM, the beer at the bars around at the hotels is much cheaper than on the NAMM floor. Just saying. So you don't see me on the NAMM floor, check the Hilton. Peanut's asking, amp settings for surf. Ideally, you want to have a drip reverb, but any reverb will work. You want to have a fair amount of reverb, lots of highs, lots of mids, turn down that bass, make sure you're on the bridge pickup, and have fun.
Yeah, lots of treble. Surf has lots of treble in it.
Yeah.
So, cut the bass. You want that nice washy reverb. A little bit of slapback delay.
Slapback delay is always nice, yeah. Let's see. Lawn Dog. Anybody got any type of memorabilia that they have collected from various rock personalities? Actually, I have a few myself. Yes. I've got a fair amount of, not a fair amount, but a few items. Definitely. I couldn't even tell you from who at this point in time. They all kind of go into a box, and fairly or unfairly, I kind of grew up around musicians, so I met some people long before I ever realized who the hell they were, and then you look back 20 years later and you're like, holy crap, I met that guy. Or,
right.
I had lunch with that guy. I grew up around it with my parents, so. Driddle says, most reverb pedals won't get an accurate drip. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I find that reverb connoisseurs are like fuzz connoisseurs. They're very serious about their stuff.
Hack has a bunch of memorabilia. Nice. Yeah, I got a lot of guitar picks, drumsticks, stuff like that. Stuff you pick up at gigs, stuff like that. Nowadays, I just, unless it's offered to me, I don't actively go out and look for it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I always stayed away from approaching a lot of the guys just because, most of the time when I saw them was, my band would open for them, or, we'd be on the same bill or something, and they were busy when I saw them. So going up to them, because they were dealing with fans. So, coming up as somebody else from one of the bands was just it was a little weird. So I always just stayed away from it.
I would do it whenever I shared a bill with a band. If anything like that is, I would walk up, after the gig, like say we're all tearing down, and I just make a joke like, I'm stealing your set list, ha ha ha, or hey, I found one of your picks, I'm keeping it. Finders keepers, stuff like that. Peanut, thank you. He says, thank you for answering my music questions. God bless you all in Jesus' name. Well, thank you very much, Peanut. Appreciate it, man. Let's see. Eddie Van Haskell. Am I related to Mr. Dressup? Yes. Distant cousin. And for those that are outside of Canada, Mr. Dressup was a long-time running children's show on the CBC. SD Design. Have you ever played, Ben, have you ever played a gig at a bar and grill? Yes, quite a few. Used to live next door to one. Good times. Yes, always good food. I love playing bar and grills. Let's see. Lawn Dog also has a guitar pick given to his brother from Eddie Van Halen. Nice. I do have one of those.
Very nice.
Yes. When I got back from Summer NAMM, somebody noticed that I had some of those new Hetfield picks, and he's like, "What do you want for some of them?" I'm like, "I'll send you a few." I'm like, "You got an Eddie pick?" He's like, "Yeah, perfect." So I got a pick from, I think, the 2012 tour.
Very cool.
Yeah. See here, BC Rich. Ben eventually worked his way up from picks and set lists and started walking off with drum risers, amps, and even tour managers' wives and girlfriends. No comment. Although you do, you play enough gigs on multi-band bills, you do end up missing some gear and you end up gaining gear. I think for every mic stand I've left at a show, I've gained a mic stand at a show.
Yeah, things just seems to come and go.
Yeah. True Tech says, I always wanted a BC Rich bitch, though my ex-wife said no. Well, she's your ex-wife, so now, yes.
There you go.
Tom Hardy, can I have this old worn-out guitar?
It looks beat up. Can I have it?
Yeah. You don't want this, right? Yeah. Isn't everything disposable in life these days? You break a string, you just get a new guitar. Yes. Cheers, folks.
For all of my compatriots who are drinking, it's time to drink.
That's right.
It's kind of like when everybody used to sunbathe. The DJ used to come on and say, "Turn or burn."
Exactly. Back when you could still do that.
Right. Well, you can still do it. It's just that now we know it gives you sun cancer or skin cancer. So,
yeah. Yeah. Back when, it's a hot one out there. I better put on SPF 7. How much is that 59 Les Paul that Metallica owns? I can't remember the exact number, but I do know Kirk sold a fair amount of gear to get it.
It's a nice place to be in, right? To be able to afford something like that. You can't fault the guys for doing it. I mean,
exactly.
You work hard to get to a place in life where you can afford these things, and so.
And honestly, I'd rather him have it than someone buying it and it just sits in a case or hanging on a wall.
Oh, absolutely. Because he's going to play it once or twice a year and maybe record with it.
Exactly.
Hopefully, he'll leave it at home and not take it on tour.
No, he takes it on tour.
Really?
Yep.
That is a brave man.
Yep. Yeah, I know.
Their security must be exceptional if he's taking that on tour.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would definitely agree on that. And the funny part is, like, I wouldn't even worry so much about theft is headstock breakage.
Oh, right. Yeah, just falling off a stand.
Yeah.
Well, do we know, has it not been broken and fixed?
That's a good question, because that guitar's gone through a few hands over the years, right?
Yeah. Because once it's fixed, you don't have to worry about it ever again. It's not going to break ever again.
Well,
if it's been fixed correctly.
I'm trying to remember. It was a guitar player from Slaughter. What was it? He had a custom motorcycle built by Counts Customs, and he did a suicide shifter with his headstock off his Les Paul, because after it broke off for the 11th time, and I was just, but he was saying, like, part of it was like, flying stuff, like, just over the years, he used the same Les Paul for years and years. And he's like, oh yeah, every tour I'd break the headstock once or twice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I know, like, my local luthier that I like to use here, when he does those repairs, not only does he dowel them with wood dowels, but he also uses graphite rods alongside of the dowels to strengthen it. And he said he's never had one come back as being broken after he's repaired it. So,
and that's right. JP Page says the Les Paul has been broken in an accident. Yes,
there you go.
Gary Moore was in a car accident and it was in the trunk.
I'm sure during the car accident, that was probably not the first thing they were looking for if the Les Paul was damaged.
Let's see here. Lawn Dog. So Slash's famous guitar, which is not actually a Gibson, but an imitation.
No, that's an imitation.
Seems like everybody is getting a hold of one. These are replicas, correct, in most cases? Yes. Yeah, Gibson has been releasing Slash-based guitars basically since Slash has been out there, it seems.
Yeah. I got to play one of those a couple years ago. That was, and I those guitars are amazing. The guy that makes those guitars, not Gibsons, those are amazing guitars.
Right.
The pickups in it were stunning.
That was what was one of my things I used to chuckle at. When the whole Chinese fakes started coming out, was the fact that growing up, like a lot of the country players, none of them were touring with their old tellies, but they had these guys in Nashville building replica tellies, and they put the Fender silk screen on it and everything. And you're like, but that's a fake. They've always been around, folks.
Yeah.
Just high end as opposed to really cheap stuff out of China. So.
Yeah, the nice ones are the equal or better than the Gibson because people put the love and time into them. The stuff that comes from overseas is sometimes not so good.
No, I got lucky with mine, and I got it secondhand, so I had already played it. But the same guy had bought a few others, and yeah, they are not good. One, it's just not playable. Let's see here. Some of the old Max Les Pauls had real PAFs in them. Yep, that is correct, Tom.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, folks, there was a time when there was no such thing as vintage gear. It was just old gear. And so you would replace your pickups. Oh, you want my old pickups? Sure. I'm never going to use them.
Right. Yeah, because nobody knew any better, right?
Exactly. I always date it back to, nowadays someone will say, yeah, I play a Les Paul, but they feel bad because it's an Epiphone Les Paul. Whereas, like my dad's generation, he felt bad because he had a CBS telly and not a pre-CBS telly. And ashamed of it. And now we're like, what? CBS are? They're great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the 69 Strat, right? Being like, a lot of carryover there. So you may actually get the real deal and not have a CBS.
Exactly. Soda asks, are Godin electrics any good? Yes, they are. They're quite nice, Soda. They're getting a little pricey, but actually they're doing a signature guitar for somebody. Let me think. Derry Guillen from Honeymoon Suite. They're going to replicate his infamous Kramer with the tread print across it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Always liked Honeymoon Suite.
Great band. I'm still waiting on their new album. They spent the spring and early summer in Nashville recording a new album.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I was unaware.
And I believe Billy Sheehan even plays on one of the tracks.
Hey, that's excellent. That is excellent.
Yeah, it was the typical thing because Billy's so busy. He was recording in the same studio, I guess. And, one of those, hey, what are you doing here? Oh, come on in, play something. Billy could probably hear a song once. Okay, here. Boom, boom, boom. Done.
Right. Hey, Ben, I have an idea.
Sure.
What about anyone who's in the chat, live chat now, or watching now, if they want an LPD, I'll give them 15% off. All they have to do is send me a message on the website or via my Reverb store, and I'll give them a discount on. We can do the offer up thing and whatever it is on the store that they want.
Awesome. There you go, folks. 15% off.
That'd be fun, right?
We got a nice gesture from Joe. Upside down, just holy crap. So Let's see here. Lawn Dog asks, what is your opinion on Eddie Van Halen's VH1 amps and equipment? Curious to know your thoughts. So the EVH amps and pedals, well, the pedals are MXR pedals. So more or less, they're just rebranded of the original MXRs that he used back in the day. They're fine, they're MXR pedals. EVH amps, they do the high gain thing. They do it very well. How well they compare to, say, the 5150 amp from, say, PV back in the day, that I'm not too sure on, because I've only played through a handful of them, but I did like them. It does that sound, and it does it quite well.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different circuit, but I think the Fender made EVH stuff, I think is well, I won't say better. It is different. You get a little more versatility with it because you actually have 3 channels. You actually have a clean channel, and then a mid channel, and then the lead channel. And I do the lead channel is almost the same as his PV 5150 channel was, circuit architecture wise.
Right.
Yeah, I love the new EVH stuff. It's really good, especially for that thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. The only thing I wouldn't buy is the EVH branded Phase 90, because all that is a Phase 90 script. And even then, I wouldn't buy a Phase 90 script. I'd just buy a modern Phase 90, open it up, clip the R28 resistor off the circuit, boom, you got a script.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Jasco says, anyone who hasn't tried an LPD pedal yet should jump on this. It's worth it. I agree.
Thank you, sir, for the vote of confidence.
It's always Q&A time, Ron.
Yep. And Dennis Burrell said it is a Soldano circuit. That is correct. It's the EVH stuff is a variation of the Soldano SLO. They're not exactly the same, but they take probably 90% of that circuit, and they make small tweaks to it. Right. The Mesa Boogie dual rectifier, same way.
Especially ripped off Soldano with that.
Yeah, especially the original two channel was almost exactly the same. The 5150 uses a different stage before the tone stack, but by that point it doesn't sound that much differently. There's a little more saturation, I think, in the PV 5150, and there's a whole lot more saturation in the EVH 5150, but very similar circuits for sure.
Nice. I got a few people chiming in on your stuff here. Crowbar says everything I've heard sounds great. Brad Miller loves the 74. Hacks vouching for the Lost Dutchman. Thank you, gentlemen, all of you. I appreciate the support for sure. Definitely. Todd Flowers is getting the 68 Deluxe next. What LPD fuzz is close to the MK1? I don't make one that's close to the Mark 1. I'm assuming they're referencing the Tone Bender Mark 1, right? Which is that's a 2 transistor circuit. You can probably get close with the Phoenix. The Phoenix is a 3 transistor circuit, but the first of the third transistors. Anyone who knows fuzzes knows exactly which stage I'm talking about. The first of the third is it's underbiased, kind of strangely, but what it does is it gives you less push on the other 2. So if you turn the fuzz control down, you can get a lot of those Mark 1 sounds out of it, close to it. It's not exactly the same because it is 3 transistors rather than 2, but yeah, because the Mark 1 is basically the same as the fuzz face. It's slightly different as the fuzz face than the fuzz face, but it's pretty close. Right. So, yeah. Gary Tholander is asking if you make a high gain pedal, which would be, I would say, the 87. It's pretty high gain. Yeah, I would say the 87 is the highest gain pedal that I make. High gain,
that changes depending on what era you're talking about. It's definitely high gain for the 80s. It's probably high gain for the 90s. Once you get into the 2000s and post Soldano dual rectifier era, it's not probably what most people consider high gain. Or the angle, you get in the angle amps. Those things are incredibly high gain. It doesn't do that thing unless you put a boost in front of it.
Right. Exactly. And it does handle boost quite well, folks. I will say that. I've got it in some gnarly territory.
Oh, yeah, boost it. Yeah, if you want to go to Pantera, put a tube screamer in front of it. You'll get, or you know what? Not a tube screamer. Sorry, put a Boss GE7 in front of it with the EQ in a frown, or if you've got an MXR EQ, frown that EQ a little bit and drop that in front of the 87, and you'll have Pantera.
Nice. That's something I got to get as an EQ pedal. Just to have.
Speaking of EQ pedals, why should I pass this up, right?
Sure.
So the Seiko pedal, which that's another one of the limited runs that's going to be coming out soon too. God, I got too many of these things. I need to stop.
Apparently, I was like, okay, yeah, drop some knowledge on me.
Yeah, right. So it's primarily a boost, but it's also an anti-boost, and it has an active EQ. So you can boost highs, you can boost lows, you can boost highs and lows together, which is the same as a mid-cut. You can cut highs, cut lows, or you can cut highs and lows together, which would be a mid-boost. You can also cut volume. So if you're going into a dirty amp, it serves as a clean channel. It's a great pedal. That one will be coming out pretty soon. I don't know where I was going that, but I wanted to mention it because we were talking about it.
Sure.
It can function like a graphic EQ, especially if you're just talking about a smile or a frown, because then you're just turning the highs and lows up or the highs and lows down. Yeah. Right. Same basic thing. Plus, it's got a pretty cool tube mode on it that allows you to emulate kind of if it were a tube.
Sure. Hey, Mickey and Lil Rhodey and Neil. Good to see you guys. Han 36 Solo. He's loving his new 5150 EVH. Nice.
Very nice.
Yes, and I will say, folks, if there's something you're looking for and if you don't see it on Lawrence's reverb page, hit him up. You never know. It could be something that's in the works.
It's true. It's true. If you're on Instagram, you can hit me with a message on Instagram. If you are not and you want to email me, it's just lpdpedals@gmail.com. And I answer all that stuff personally, so feel free to hit me.
Yep. Yeah, he is the design department, the marketing department, chief bottle washer.
That's right. I'm also the internet communications guru.
Yeah. Yeah. Social media director. Yeah. All right. People talking to each other there. All right. Cool. Cool. Didn't you mention a possible harmonic tremolo project too? Well,
I mean, because you and I, we've talked about that a little bit. We've got a super secret project kind of that I'm trying to work out so that we can do something with it. It's in the design phase. We'll put it that way. But yeah, I would love to release a harmonic based tremolo, hopefully with switching enough that you can do either full range or standard tremolo on it. I'd love to be able to do that in combination with possibly a reverb. We've kind of talked about that a little bit, Ben and I.
Yeah, that's an announcement, folks. There you go.
It may be a little further down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, we will not
maybe a little further down the road.
We will not be displaying it at Winter NAMM in the middle of the showroom yet. Very cool. Let's see here. There's a lot of stuff in the works, folks. That's all I'm saying. Let's see. Brad says you deserve a raise. So, and Brax Stubblefield says, "Oh yes, an LPD take on the Flint." I don't know. I have a hard time remembering half the damn pedals on the market these days, but I did see.
Well, it's pretty crowded.
Yeah, somebody mentioned. I think it was Lon mentioned earlier. He says, I'm new here and I'm learning stuff already. Well, that's one of the things. Like, I try to go to a few events a year and get as much gear into my hands as possible. So if you folks say, "Hey, do you know about this product?" I can say, "Yeah, I checked it out at this place." So I try, but then again, it becomes a bit of a blur after a while. After you play to the 40th fuzz in 3 hours, Now, did I like that 24th one that guy out of Arizona's building, or was it that 42nd one that guy out of Ohio had? It's like I don't know.
Right.
And that's why I have people like Aaron around me to remember that stuff.
Right. So Soda is asking how many guitars are behind me. You can't see all of them, but that's my primary storage for them, and there's probably about 20 of them there. Anyone who's heard me talk much before knows that my rule of thumb that everyone should have is one guitar for every serious year of practicing and playing that you've been doing. And if I go by that rule, I'm still about 10 or 15 shy. So
I think
I have some catching up to do.
I think I'm about there because I think I've got 15. I've been playing for 30, but half that time I wasn't serious at all.
Okay. So Hack is asking me if I've ever chatted with Brian Wampler. I have. Last Winter NAMM, Brian and I, we all sat down and had a good chat at Brian's booth. And I'm fairly certain Brian didn't know who the hell I was, that's okay. I know who Brian is. That's fine. He was a staple in the do-it-yourself community prior to launching his company, and he's a great guy. Yeah, we chatted for a while. Like I said, I'm pretty sure he didn't know who I was. He may know who I am now, but probably not. So
his loss. He is a nice guy. Yeah. I don't think I've never actually met him, but we've done a lot of, I'm walking by and we make eye contact. It's like, "Hey, how you doing?" So we've nodded to each other on several occasions, I believe.
Is anyone there?
All right, folks. Do you have any other questions here? If not, we'll probably start wrapping things up. We've been going a good hour and a half here. Wow, that flew by.
Yeah, we've gone long. Hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Yeah, lots of great questions, folks. Jesus. Covering all kinds of stuff. Oh, okay. Joe, thoughts on Joyo?
Right.
They have a place. I think they're a great stepping stone.
Yeah. Well, Joyo stuff, I was really surprised. Phil McKnight and I, the first time he had me on, we pulled apart one of the Joyos. I think it was supposed to be a Tube Screamer clone that they did, and I was surprised. Their components were actually pretty good. It wasn't your usual cheap Chinese stuff. I can't vouch for their pots or their switches, but most of the stuff that I saw inside was refreshingly decent. So I think Joyo is one of the few companies that actually tends to go maybe the extra mile with their component selection, whereas a lot of the Chinese stuff is just, they make it fast, they make it cheap, and if it fails, go buy a new one, throw it in the trash.
Right. Yeah, like that. That's what I usually go, what? It's only cost this much? Like, you do get very good bang for the buck. And I think they're a great stepping stone because they make a decent product and it will inspire you to go out and search out a better version, using that term correctly or incorrectly. But
yeah,
I didn't really see the point of the whole boutique pedal market until I tried some and I went, "Oh, wow, okay." I didn't know pedals could sound that much better. Let's see, Lawn Dog. Lawrence, what is your thought process when trying to create a new pedal? Is it created using computer software for electronics, or do you just get out the soldering iron and play with parts?
You know, my process is usually to I'll come up with a concept of something that I feel is needed, because as we all know, the marketplace for pedals is very crowded. There's a lot of stuff out there, and there's a lot of guys that are building clones. And I try to stay away from that as much as possible, just because there's so many other people doing it. Why reinvent the wheel, right? It's just, I don't know, never really what I wanted to do. You have some things that are close to traditional circuits, but I try to offer at least improvements or twists that bring something new to the table with them. They're not direct clones. So a lot of times I'll start with an idea of, like, you know, me as a guitar player, or me as the touring guitar player that I, you know, when I was still touring, what would I want if I had a pedal board full of everything missing? So I try to use that as my seed for inspiration and creativity. And then from there, usually I'll rough out on, just with pencil and paper, I'll rough out a block diagram of the you know, the basic stages that I want to do. And then usually I do take it to my software simulator, Spice Simulator, first. And I'll plug it all in, and I'll do, you know, rough component stuff, and get the I've been working with those things for so long that I know what the waveform looks, how the waveform looks, how it's going to sound. I've got a pretty good one-to-one translation of that. So I'll get all that in Spice first, making sure that I don't have any faults, you know, protocol faults or anything like that. And then I'll take it to the breadboard and test it out, do the final tweaking by ear with that. And then usually from there, I go right to, you know, I'll lay out the PCB and have an initial run of 5 or 10 made. And then once I get those, I'll build them. You know, I'll build the first one, listen to it, play it, put probably 20 to 40 hours of play time in and listening time in on it. And then make adjustments, swap out components, build 2 or 3 more, get it kind of to where I want. And then at that point, it's more about unless I've made some error along the way that I was unaware of, and the part doesn't function like it's supposed to, it's about just swapping component values to get it tweaked into that sweet spot that I'm looking for. You know, that sound that I have up here and the feel that I have here in my hands, and then you know, just finalize it. And usually then I'll do, you know, that's what the limited run series is kind of all about. These are projects that I've had put together for probably a year or two that I wanted to release, but didn't know how the market would react. And so, you know, now I can release them on a limited run basis and see how everybody likes them, how the market responds to them, and you know, then put them into production if they're well received.
Right. Crowbar was asking, do you prototype on a breadboard?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got about a half a dozen breadboards. So probably like at least 6 different projects working on them that I'll go back to. And you know, the only thing that I love breadboards because they allow you to switch components quickly, no soldering, just plug and play and see if you like it. The only problem is that they tend to be noisy, a lot of interference with them. So you have to go into it with a mind of kind of a discount. It's like, how much of this noise is the breadboard itself and being uninsulated, and how much is it the circuit and coming through the guitar. But yeah, I breadboard frequently.
Okay. See ya, Soda. See ya, Cousin Todd. All right. Gary asks, what amp and guitars do you use to test your pedals?
The guitar that I use most frequently is my Telecaster. Primarily because low output pickups, it's a single coil. It's going to be the noisiest guitar that I have. It's also going to be the one that drives the pedal the least. That's the first one that I pick up. It's also got extra treble content in it. It's a brighter guitar. So that gives me that reference, and I'll almost always swap that out with one of my Ibanez humbucker, because they do exactly the opposite. There's more drive, less treble content, more bass content, and I use those two for my reference. As far as the amps go, usually the first thing that I test on is this little GX or GX15, GX20 crate that's like 25 years old, that I know really, really well, right? It's like mixing in a studio. You have to be very intimately familiar with your equipment. You know how it responds to certain frequencies and what you're actually getting. You know, when you put something into it, you know what's coming out of it.
Right.
So that I'm really familiar with that little cheap crate amp, and so I use that as my this is the worst case scenario. If it sounds good here, it's going to sound good everywhere. And then from there, for the other aspect, I have my my hand built tube amp that I have, my 3-channel that I use, and I put it through that. That's kind of my if you're gonna play on a high end amp, it's going to sound like this kind of thing. So those are my two. Usually I use 2 ends of references for guitars and for amplifiers.
Nice. Very cool. Well, I think that's a good way to wrap things up. We went an hour and 45 here. So awesome, everyone in the chat. This has been great. Do you have anything to add, Lawrence? And remember, folks, if you do order anything in the next few hours, contact them. Get your deal.
Thanks for everybody in the chat, and for all the great questions and having me on again, Ben. I always love being here. Great community. Love being part of it. Yeah. Thank you so much.
This has turned into a semi-regular thing. It's like every 3 months, it's like, well, we got to touch base. We got to do it, and everyone seems to love it. Pick your brain.
Yeah. Right.
Awesome. All right. Well, if you just hold the line, again, thanks everybody that tuned in. Returning, you new folks, that's been awesome. Thanks for all the thumbs ups, and thanks for all the contributions to the channel. All this stuff is going to be going towards Winter NAMM, and a couple other things I got in the works, which I'm not able to talk about yet, but there is some stuff going on, folks. Believe me. We got some parts in for the community builds. That stuff's still full effect. And remember, tune in tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific for Canucks with Guitars. I should have a co-host tomorrow night. That's all I'm going to say at this time. And as I always say, folks, hold those doors open. Let that guy in ahead of you in traffic. Do good things, and good things will happen to you. Karma's real. We're living the dream. I hope you are too. Have a great night and rock on, folks.
Take care, everyone.